work this time. It is working this time. Oh my goodness. Well, hello. My name's Waldo, and
Hello.
this is my friend Modular. And what we do is we're trying this out, experimenting, messing around, kind of amateurly goofing around. We're gonna read some news articles. We're gonna argue about it, and then discuss some things. Maybe talk about pop culture. I don't know, but
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
yeah, I think so. I'm gonna bring up your audio a little bit. This is my very first live stream. I've never done this before, and I am just goofing around. All right, so if I switch to this button, then I go here. Um, you can't see my screen, can you?
I cannot.
Okay. How are we going to look at the same thing?
In Discord, if you go to the call,
Yeah,
there
you're
is
right.
an option to share your screen. There it is.
Brilliant.
Although it totally just showed my Discord name and yours.
Just for a sec, yeah. I tried to go fast.
We'll have to do
Um,
that before starts from now on.
all right, so I've got Google News right there. Brought up 5:38 because the midterms are happening.
All right.
Did you watch any of that?
Any of the election coverage?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did not.
Okay.
I figure I'll let it surprise me.
Oh, okay. Well, not anymore. Here's your surprise. House forecast.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Most likely going to have more. 220 to about 220 to 215, something along those lines.
So still basically a deadlock. All right.
Well, I mean, even having one more person in a as highly polarized as things have been lately
Well, yeah, but you've always
means you
got
own it.
those five or six on either side that really want something done, so they can, make a deal with the other side, and maybe that military base in wherever stays open for another, 5, 10 years.
I mean, this also changes the Speaker of the House.
That is true.
Won't be Nance anymore if this holds. And then we've got the Senate, which is far more disturbing. It's these are right down the middle, honestly.
Yeah. Um,
It might be 50-50. There's a lot of
which
50-50.
it already is, isn't it?
It is 50-50 right now, except the
And
two
then
senators that are insane being mentioned in cinema.
oh well, the mentions West Virginia, isn't he?
Mention is West Virginia coal miners number one. Go coal miners. That's his entire
Well,
job
yeah, but
is to make the world's.
you can't be a full blue guy in
I know,
West Virginia and
I know,
expect to win.
I know, and that's why he has said that if he doesn't get what he wants, he's going to turn red and then get reelected as
I
a
think that's a
Republican.
valid strategy.
That's his strategy. It works for him. Sucks for me, but uh, uh, I would rather we don't dig up coal. But that was our last episode. That was our last show. and
Indeed.
then and then so yeah, it's probably gonna stick to 50-50. There's some everybody's going for that last push for the what was it? Yeah, Trump is rallying for Oz, and Obama's out there rallying for Fetterman. so they can stay 50-50.
Interesting.
I wonder if we can look at their specific race. Yeah, we can. Where are you? Pennsylvania. There you are. Fetterman, oh, barely above Oz. Huh. So even that one's a dead heat.
Um, yeah, I mean, even if Oz does win, I'd be very curious to see how often he actually shows up to vote.
Um, you think he's too much of a important celebrity type to show up?
Yeah, exactly. I wonder how much of this is for his ego.
Hmm.
And then once he's elected, he just won't show up to the floor at all.
It's not a good way to keep your job around there, especially in a swing state like Pennsylvania.
True, but you never know with these guys.
Let's go back to Senate. Yeah. What else we got? What the other states? So where are our toss-up states? Our toss-up states are Pennsylvania at the moment, um, Georgia. Oh yeah, that was the other one. I, the staunch atheist that I am pushing and hoping that a damn uh, preacher wins. I think he's either a reverend or a preacher or something like that, but I'm hoping he wins. That's
I'm
insane.
surprised it's that close. Herschel
He,
Walker, I would expect to be a landslide on this one.
Georgia is weird. I mean, they did that big upset during the 2020 Trump election, right?
Yeah.
Um, Warnock barely won in like a runoff, and Herschel Walker. Why do you think he would be a landslide? That's what I want to know.
Isn't he like a famous football player from Georgia
He is.
and beloved over there?
He is.
So that's why.
Oh, okay. But he is also an absolute buffoon and has paid for several abortions,
Okay. Well, yeah,
which
that's
is
probably not
which
great for
is a
him.
thing that the Republicans don't like, or at least the
Oh yeah.
Republican voters don't like. Uh,
So I guess the that you said pastor, this guy's a pastor or whatever.
yeah, Raphael Warnock. He is a. Um, I could look him up. Oh, come on, June. Just copy.
Putting a pastor up against him is probably one of the better ways to counter
Well, we didn't know.
Herschel Walker's deal.
We didn't even know that Herschel Walker was running. So Warnock took the seat in a special election in 2018. I want to say. So he hasn't even served a full like 6-year term.
Gotcha.
How did I spell his name? Raphael. If I could type. There he is. American pastor. Yeah. He took over, I think, in 2018 in like a special election, and then this is his first real regular election, and he barely won that one. Um,
Interesting. I guess we'll see how it goes.
yeah, Herschel Walker though is, and if you haven't seen his stuff, his debates and live appearances and stuff like that, he is
Well,
legitimately brain damaged. And I'm not.
the guy, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
he played
he,
football
he played football.
for
He
years and
has
years. I
brain
mean, he's got to
damage.
have CTE at this point.
He does. He absolutely does.
But again, he might also be one of those ones that just never shows up to the floor.
No, he's going to show up. They. Oh no, I think that he is being coached. Ah, he had a. What was it that happened in October 25th that swapped them? How strange. Well, even going back and forth. It's probably just a different poll.
Yeah, I never really trust that
That thing right there.
those forecasts.
Mm.
Not
Yeah,
since 2016 anyway.
yeah, they did a bad job that year. Uh, they didn't ask the people that were voting.
Well, right. And you never, I mean, I think times are chaotic enough at this point that the people that they call or poll are maybe not entirely representative of everybody that's actually going to come out to vote
Yeah, it's tricky. Can't they
on
have like
either
some
side. I
some
mean,
polling apps? Would that make more sense? I'd be more likely to click an
maybe,
app.
but even then, it'd be only the people that are like politically engaged in the first place to download that app.
Hmm,
So it's kind of a lose lose for those um, the pollsters.
that's true. Um, oh, what do you think of Twitter news?
Twitter news.
Yeah,
Musk
the
bought it.
he bought it.
Bunch of
Uh,
layoffs.
yeah.
Sounds good to me.
No, I don't want to go to Twitter. I want to, yeah, see the news. Here we go. Uh, lays off employees across the company. Um, why does it sound good to you? I'm just curious.
Well, maybe it'll actually be a platform that has a variety of opinion on it.
You don't think it does now?
No, of course not. It's an echo
And
chamber.
it's an echo chamber for the left
Of
or
course.
left-wing ideas. How do you figure?
Yep. It's just what it is.
It's, I mean, mm, if it is, I don't think it is, but if it is, I would say it's because the right can't behave itself.
That is fair.
They have a TOS. I don't think they boot people for political leaning. I think the people with hard right political leaning cannot behave themselves properly. And that doesn't make it Twitter's fault. It is a company that is intending to make money.
Hmm. I'll have to look
It
into
well, we can, if you want to, we can talk about the platforms versus free speech and what we want it to be and stuff like that. Uh,
sure.
yeah, I don't have any numbers on specifically how many right wing people get kicked off or something like that. But if it is a company that wants to make money, it
Yeah.
has to control and have some sort of a TOS.
Yes, of course. But so we have this thing where something can be either a platform or a publisher, right?
Okay.
And if you curate your content too much, you really should be considered a publisher as opposed to a platform. And I really do think that Twitter has been more of a publisher lately, but they still get the platform designation.
What's what would be what would be the difference between the two, and why should
One
we treat them
one
differently?
curates content and the other one doesn't.
Platforms have to curate content. They have to. There's no way they can't.
Sure. I mean, as long as it's not violating laws or posing an immediate threat to somebody,
Mm.
I don't see why.
Why they would have to curate?
Yeah, exactly.
Drawn lolly porn is legal.
You can
I mean, it
obviously
is.
have like obscenity uh rules about obscenity. That's not the same thing. And it's
Well,
actually isn't it outlined in the FCC guidelines that it's a little too vague that yes, you can moderate things that are graphic or obscene
mhm,
in some way.
that's curation though.
Mm, it's the degree of the curation that really matters, I think.
Okay. Um, so you're thinking, just I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, that if a platform curates too much, they become a publisher,
Yep.
and they wouldn't be any different than, say, The Guardian right here,
Uh-huh.
who is a publisher, and they're publishing
Correct.
this information right here.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. And what difference does it make once they become a publisher? How do we treat them? How should we treat them?
Well, it's outlined again in the FCC guidelines. Um, there's a rule about it that was like one of those ones that people freaked out about getting changed while Trump was in office.
Hmm.
Uh,
I kind of remember that.
yeah, and that was the whole deal with it was looking into making platforms that moderate too heavily into publishers because publishers can be held liable for the things that are said on their platform,
Okay.
whereas platforms cannot.
Okay. I mean, so Elon buying Twitter and turning it more into a platform makes it
Hmm.
less. It makes it more freeform. Makes it more the Wild
Exactly,
West,
which
and it
is
makes it
great.
more the Wild West,
Yeah.
which means that they will make less money and they won't have as many advertisers, which makes the company lose money, which is why they want to get as close to that in from Twitter's perspective. If you owned Twitter, you would want it to be as close to a publisher as you can without crossing the line. Yeah,
Um, sure. And
that's how you'd make the most
from a
money.
company perspective, I get it.
Hmm.
At the same time, you need it play there has to be some kind of place that acts as a public square at this point,
I
like online.
I would agree with that, and I think that's a great idea. It can't be done by a corporation. It cannot be done by a company trying to make money.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how Elon handles it because that's what he wants to do and it's in his hands. If he's able to do it while making money, then that would definitely serve as a model, I think, for other platforms to start deregulating a little bit too, if they so choose. But I don't think they will. I think that their actual company mindset and culture is designed around uh, leftist thinking. I think that it's much more. There's definitely an element of choice about how they go about curating their content.
To what's civil, I think. I think civility is the basis for those choices.
I don't think so at all,
Mm,
because Twitter will allow you to say "kill all white people" and not ban you. But what if you turn
does
around
it?
and say "kill all black people"? Yep.
Okay. I don't use Twitter. I haven't got it. It's not a place for smart people. Um, so I don't have one and don't want one. And then I can't get canceled. You see,
Yeah, it's well,
I can say whatever I
it's
want
just
right here,
like
and no one can cancel my Twitter. Uh,
it's just like if you really don't want to
get
be
out of
bad
here.
mouthed on Twitch, you can do one stream on Twitch and say something really horrendous and then get banned immediately, and nobody can ever talk about you on Twitch ever again.
Right. Perfect. Problem solved. Elon Musk says Twitter has had massive revenue drop as advertisers pause spending.
That's fine. I mean, it is going through a transitionary period.
Hmm.
You would expect that the advertisers would pause their spending.
To see what changes he makes,
Yeah, most
and
likely.
if he turns it into a 4chan style cesspool, they won't come back.
That's fair. He might get other sponsors though.
I know. I mean, that's the extreme. I know. I recognize that that's the extreme. That he turns it into a free-for-all hellhole, um, and decent advertisers don't come back. Um, which leads me to the point I had made a minute ago that the public square cannot be run by a private business.
So you would want a government area for that.
Yeah, similar to PBS.
I see.
Yeah, see, what we do is we take PBS that already exists and then broaden them to have a public square type Twitter um, platform. What do you think of that idea?
It could be interesting.
Uh,
Although I would be interested to see how it actually manifested.
mm, if I could draft it up, I would suggest, yeah, just expanding them, buying a bunch of, hiring a bunch of the people Elon just laid off. Uh, they need jobs, right? Making them government employees and then having them build up a PBS style thing, um, but for posting. And then, I don't know, what do you think
You
of
have
the
to
idea?
have a completely separate group of people as content moderation teams
That's fine. And it would
because there's no
be
way I would trust them the way
it,
that they behave.
the way they behave. All right, fine. It would be only the moderation that you suggested earlier, only things that are violent, pornographic, and directly threatening. And then maybe, wild idea I have here, since it is the public square, you would have to attach your real name to it.
Fair enough.
No handles, no Waldo, no modular. And then the things that you say in that public square, you have the ability to delete. I'm fine with that. If you post something horrible when you're 18, um, and then you go for a job interview when you're 30, I don't want them reaching back and reading that and saying, "Hey, you posted this uh,
Well, as you
pro-socialism
know,
quote when you were 18, so we're not going to hire you." That's silly.
anything that goes on the internet is forever.
I know, but uh, you could delete the things that you posted. I would be fine with that, and it would be harder for them to find. I mean,
True.
uh,
So
you're
you're not in favor of public square of the Ender's Game variety with
no. Tell me. Well, I don't know. Tell me about it.
oh, you have you never read the book?
I haven't.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, major spoilers for a book that came out 40 years ago now.
I already know the spoilers. Yeah,
Okay.
because so many people talk about it. Yeah.
So in the book, Ender has is the main character.
Mhm.
But there are times in the book where it goes and follows his two siblings.
Mhm.
His two siblings didn't get picked up for the Space Commander program that Ender got picked up for.
Mhm.
So instead, they have these tablets that are, of course, internet connected, and they are able there's a virtual public square, presumably run by the government, but it's anonymous.
Mhm.
And so the brother and the sister start staging debates with each other under pseudonyms where they plan out how they're going to get people involved and they decide which sides they're going to take, and then eventually they gain so much popularity in the public square that they end up the brother ends up as the global hegemon
Okay. So
after, of course, he reveals who he is.
okay. So okay he manipulates the social media to get famous, and
Oh
then
yeah.
once famous gets himself elected.
Yep.
Sounds like Ted Cruz when he bought a whole shitload of Twitter bots uh, to chat during his debate. How do I put chat on screen? I know we don't have anybody watching, but um, I had a chat window over here the other day, and I don't know where it went. I must have killed it somehow. Okay, coming back. All right. Yeah, that is not a good idea. Yeah, if it's going to be a public, if it's going to be a public town square, it needs to be run by the public. Uh, a board of directors consisting of members, um, not a corporation run for money. If we are expecting Twitter to be the public square, why is it making private money and private decisions on how to maximize that money? I think anybody expecting Twitter to be the public square is misguided.
Do you think that there is the possibility that they have curated their content a little too much, which has lowered their user count, which the users that some of the users that have been banned would otherwise be palatable to advertisers, and having a lower user count but the same advertisers is potentially one reason why they're not making as much money as they could.
The lower users, so you're suggesting that they banned a whole bunch of people
Mm-hmm.
and now they're making less money because of it?
Yep.
Elon Musk just took over and fired people and said he's going to bring all these people back, and they had a massive revenue drop.
Well, yeah. The company went through an upheaval.
Right.
Advertisers, of course, are going to pause spending.
Okay.
It's
Well,
to be
they didn't.
expected. We'll see if the advertisers come back or not.
I would. I would suggest if your theory was uh, more correct, they would be rushing to get in. They would be like, "Oh, Elon's letting all the people back in. That means more people will see us. Let's increase advertising. Let's go to him. Let's get in on this ground floor right before this massive swell of people comes back."
Well,
I don't
we'll
think it's
see how that
massive
goes.
anyway. If I I read some numbers one time that only like 10% of the country is on fucking Twitter.
That's
And
about yeah, that's correct.
so 10% of the country, which ain't very many people. I mean, 3 million people. Wait, is that right? No, 30 million people. So 30 million people is a lot, but 100% of reporters and 100% of political activists are on Twitter.
Right.
So it makes them seem more important than they really are, if that makes sense.
Of course.
Um,
But Twitter being
450
the
million
spot where
active
all those
users.
people
Okay.
hang out does make it somewhat more important, though, doesn't it?
What the fact that all the reporters go there and all the political
Yep.
activists, it makes them seem louder and more important than they actually are.
Yeah, and these are people
When
that,
something explodes on Twitter, uh, 10% of the country sees it. But
well,
then
it's
the
not
people
10% of the country because the people that are using Twitter, those
then
10% are
report
also the
it,
ones that are writing the stories. Exactly.
but that gives it a larger weight than it actually may have had. Remember? Okay, what was it? That damn smarmy kid who stood in front of the Indian guy and as they were beating the drum. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay, so that was literally nothing. It
Yeah.
was absolutely nothing. On both sides, on either side, nothing happened. There was a protest, there was a kid, he smiled, there was an Indian, he played a drum. That's it.
And
There was
then
nothing
and
else.
then they
Nobody.
claimed that
And
he like
then,
assaulted the Indian guy or
right,
something. It was
because
ridiculous.
because of Twitter. So Twitter blew it up as, hey, look at this smarmy kid being a shithead, and then the people on the right on Twitter said, hey, look at this uh, poor innocent kid who's been victimized. They both played it up to the extremes. They both took this thing that was in the center that was literally nothing, pulled the pieces that they liked apart into two distinct sets of facts, and then every reporter in the country reported on it. And it was
On the
literally nothing.
left's perspective.
Well, no, they then why did I get all the right perspective?
I don't know.
I heard it
Maybe you hang out all in the right wing circles
because I
there.
watched them because they frighten me. So I watch them. I keep my eye on them. Be like,
Well,
hey,
I do believe that that kid, his name is Nick Sandman,
is it? Might be.
ended up taking just about every one of those media outlets to court
Right,
and got settlements out of them.
right. Because they over exaggerated and they made what was nothing into something. because
Well, they
of
straight up lied about
yes, because they
about
watched
the
Twitter. That's the
confrontation.
problem. I agree that's an issue. Uh, Nothing happened. The activists on both sides screamed about it on Twitter. Then the regular reporters started reporting on it on what they saw on Twitter, and then it went bad. Um, I could suggest that um, in that situation, yes, it was the reporters who looked at the leftist side of the Twitter argument, then reported on it, and that was incorrect, and then he sued them. But the opposite happens as well. The right wing ideas get uh, propagated, and then people start to believe it.
What do you mean?
I mean, social media gave us ivermectin and horse paste, and then people talking about that, and it wasn't. It was almost nothing. Like nobody would have done this thing if it weren't for social media propagating
Yeah. Although when you say horse paste,
it. Some
you
people went and bought horse paste because it had ivermectin in it. Some people, yes, got it, the actual drug, from dumb fuck doctors who gave it to them, and then they took it. But there was a run on horse paste. Literally, the feed stores ran out because people came and bought it
yeah.
because
I
they could
mean,
not get
but
it from their doctor because their doctor said no, that's stupid.
I get it.
So that happened because of social media. So I mean, it can go both ways. Uh, the lie that that kid was assaulting this old Indian man was incorrect, and the left reported on it. Ivermectin helping you fix your COVID was a lie that was incorrect. Um, I know both sides suck. I know,
Um,
but was I making a point? I don't remember what it was. Twitter users. I wanted individual users.
there was at least some evidence that ivermectin did have an impact on COVID, though.
It was shot down almost immediately. The evidence was bad. The evidence came from a medical group who also properly before ivermectin, they suggested using steroids on COVID patients, which wasn't happening. Which is why right at the very beginning of COVID, like we were having people that were bleeding out and stuff like that, and nobody could figure it out. And they said, hey, this is a immune system overreaction, so you need to give them steroids to tamp down their immune system, and that worked. That's why when you at the very beginning, when people were not at the very beginning, but like a few weeks in, this one group said use steroids, it'll work, and it did. That group then needs to stay famous, needs to stay relevant, needs to stay important, and they said ivermectin works. It didn't, but then they pushed it so that they wouldn't be wrong, uh, because ivermectin does not work. And the yeah, I want to say it was in Brazil that a whole group of scientists started a test, and then they ended it halfway because it just absolutely was not working. It was killing people, and they couldn't do the test anymore. They said this is just not working, and they stopped.
Hmm. I think there was enough information circulating out there to make it one of those things that's plausible that someone would have gone and do.
Right, and I
At
think
least asked for ivermectin from their doctor. I mean, there were the studies that had sounds like they have some limitations to them
mhm,
that that said, hey, it's actually effective at treating COVID-19. Pretty sure didn't India give out packets of vitamins and pills for COVID-19 that included ivermectin?
right, they did, and
Um,
that was a mistake, and they shouldn't have. Hell, you could get it from doctors who just checked certain. You could get it from doctors in America who were on a certain uh, side of the aisle. You could get it from right-wing doctors in America if they thought that it helped. They weren't looking at the evidence. They weren't looking at uh, documents. They were looking at um, social media. They were looking at what they believed, and belief was the problem. If it worked, the government would give it to their soldiers. That's I use that as a very solid place to build your ideas from. The
Hmm.
the American military gave its soldiers not ivermectin, and they did give them the uh, immunization, the COVID immunization. If Donald Trump was the commander in chief back then, like if it were Biden or Obama, there would be more um, conspiracy theory about it. Oh, Obama's Obama's given our soldiers the Fauci ouchie, the poisonous jab. That would have happened. But it was Donald Trump at the time, and all the soldiers got it, except for the ones who absolutely refused, and I think they got discharged. Uh,
Yeah.
there's one thing that America does really, really well in its military, its weapons, it's warfare, and they do not give poison intentionally to their soldiers.
Intentionally is the key word.
Intentionally is the key word. I know, but it was safe enough for them, and it was safe enough for the country, and we're not all dead from the injection. But there are people who are dead from COVID, and there are people who are damaged from ivermectin. Ivermectin doesn't do anything. I've read about the mechanism of what it actually does,
That's
and
fair. I never said
yeah,
it did. I said
I know,
the
I know,
information
yeah,
that was out there at the time.
yeah, and I think that information was peddled by um, social media and people who wanted it to be true because they didn't want to be
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, that's everybody, right? Nobody likes to be wrong.
Um, so Twitter causes some harm. What do we do about that? If a bad idea happens and it gets popular on Twitter and the people do that bad idea and it's spread by Twitter as a good idea, what do we do about that? Is that okay? Is that just the world we live in now? We live in a post-truth world where Twitter says it's true, we just do it?
Well, we live in a post-truth world in a sense that that so much disinformation circulates already.
Mm-hmm. And
And
we had the
there's
we had the Bronze Age, we had the Stone Age, we had the Space Age, we had the Information Age, and now we have the Disinformation Age that we're living in right now.
yeah, I know. But I mean, there if we weren't all isolated into our own echo chambers, then perhaps some people on either side would be able to say, no, wait, maybe we should wait for more information on this, or hey, you're actually wrong about this. Maybe you shouldn't report on it, and we could get a little bit more of a constructive debate. But when everybody on one side is circulating information on Twitter, everybody on the other side is circulating information on fucking Gab
Gab
or
and
whatever,
Parlor, yeah.
yeah, on Gab or Parlor, then you're just gonna get two sides have have no interaction with each other, that sit there and circulate their own misinformation in on either side, and then you have both sides not trusting each other, and uh and then they won't look to each other's ideas to find something that's more true.
Okay.
I think that's bad.
Yeah.
definitely it does not help when, you have things that Trump said during his daily coronavirus press conferences that got totally
The
blown out of
bleach,
proportion.
yeah,
The bleach in the veins,
and the
injecting UV light into the
injecting
body.
UV light. That's so good.
Yeah. Uh, I
Yeah,
mean, injecting yourself with disinfectant. I just get out of here. Like,
it was the Trump show though. He's a vain person who likes to be in front of the cameras, and this everybody watched that show. It was it was his daily show. I watched every single minute of it, um, and lots of people watched it. I think it was some of the most highly rated stuff that was on TV at the time
yep.
because there's this wild ass thing that's tearing through the nation, and president's up there doing a stand up routine. Uh, uh, so, see, this is why I'm not on Twitter. So I'm on YouTube. Brilliant. Okay, so uh, not to retread, but yeah, that's what I do think we need a PBS style government Twitter or government. It could be even like Facebook,
That's fair.
but I'd
Oh,
want it to. Mhm.
there is one thing that I believe uh I heard a rumor about, which is Elon is considering uh including a sort of Vine functionality into Twitter.
Okay, a
So he
tiny
might be
little
bringing
video.
back Vine,
Hmm. Okay.
and then in I think that he might do that and then lobby the government to ban TikTok
Um,
for
well, the
being Chinese spyware.
yeah the TikTok is definitely Chinese spyware, but it lets you play the music clips. If his Twitter, I mean, speaking from a business standpoint, if his Twitter doesn't allow you to play the music clips or gives you what's the word? When you play music on YouTube, they give you a copyright strike. Yeah. So if his Twitter doesn't allow you to play the music, it won't. Business wise, take off.
Um, it really depends because music can be licensed. So you could have just like TikTok does, where you hear the exact same four songs on every single TikTok video.
That's because they're
Uh,
popular. You can play any song on TikTok if I remember correctly. I could be wrong.
that, that's fair. I mean, it just has to be one of the ones that's licensed by Twitter for the uh open publishing.
Well,
In which case, the
that costs a lot of
average
money.
yes, it does, but you can essentially purchase packages of licensing. Like you can get entire studios content by licensing it, and then your users can use it. I think there's a or a proposition there where if you can get the all the Vine people back, and all the TikTok people come over to Twitter,
Okay.
then you could have a pretty massive user base there, which it would make sense to license your it would make sense to license that content, those songs, so that you could draw those people over. Because of course, not being able to play the music there would be a huge setback against other competitors like TikTok um and I think YouTube is trying to get into that space. Facebook's been working on it for a little bit, but they're obviously nowhere close to being in the in a TikTok or Vine sphere popularity yet.
Okay. That would be interesting. I mean, did I mean I read I knew Vine was a thing, but uh, attaching a little tiny clip to your tweet would be fine, I think. Um, and then all the TikTokers and the fun dancing and stuff like that could go to Twitter. So it is a business move. Uh, I suspect, I know it sounds crazy, but I really think that it's going to go down in profit. It's going to go down in users, and then Elon's going to look for a way to bail. That's what I suspect is going to happen. Um,
Well, the fun thing is that we are able to find out. Unless did he take the company fully private?
no, I think he just bought
A
the
majority stake.
shares. Yeah, I think he just bought the majority stake. Yeah,
Well, then we'll be able to find out in a year or two.
I don't think.
We'll because Twitter publishes a quarterly report with the SEC and an annual
Hmm.
report.
Hmm.
So if we want to revisit this in a year or two and see how Twitter's doing, we
Uh,
can do that once the dust
theoretically,
is settled.
theoretically, he tries to bail. What happens?
Then somebody else, then he made a poor business decision. He bought
Amazon
a company for $44 billion, and then
Amazon buys it for $30 million,
for 30 billion,
something
then
like that.
he takes a $14 billion loss.
Yeah, he does.
And then sure, it turned out to be a poor business move on his part.
And then Amazon uses it sort of like AWS. See, now there's, I think, an idea is that, um, do you know what AWS is?
Yeah.
So they host all the websites online and stuff like that. So what they would do is take the infrastructure and then sell a chunk of it to someone else, and they could call it whatever they want. So if, let's say, you were trying to build a social media uh, platform based on the truth, like Mr. Donald Trump, Truth Social, he could just go to AWS, buy a chunk of servers, name it whatever he wants, and give it whatever TOS he wants, and it would be Truth Social, run by
Yeah, it's
AWS. But
sort of like an advanced version of the old WordPress site and whatnot.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, and then if it's got a shitty TOS that allows anything, they could do whatever TOS they want, and it wouldn't kick back on AWS, if that makes sense.
Because AWS is a platform.
Right.
Although I would be
And
willing to bet that Amazon will ban you if your content moderation standards are below theirs.
it's they do that with their websites now. You can't go to AWS and create like an openly super right wing. I mean, not right wing. I take that back. You can't go there and open a super uh, pro-Nazi website. You can't.
Well,
But
yeah, right.
there is still lots of things that they will allow you to platform. It's probably better platform, uh, better or less moderation than current Twitter, anyway. But if you don't like the way Twitter does their TOS, you could just buy your own network and name it whatever you want and change that TOS and be a bit more broad. I think that would only exacerbate things though. But that's honestly what I see coming is because Trump's creating his own. The My Pillow guy is creating his own. Uh, Kanye just bought. What did he just buy? Uh, Kanye just bought Parler, or was it Gab?
Parlor.
He bought Parler from
Yeah.
Candace Owens' husband, who was losing money on it. Fucking goddamn Kanye, you got fucking played, man. Not a
Kanye is off his rocker.
He is a lunatic, and he got played. He starts hanging out with Candace Owens, and then Candace Owens is like, "Oh yeah, Twitter kicked you off. You know what you should do is buy this thing that my husband owns," and is losing money left and right. Fucking. We should try and sell him some bridges. You got any bridges that we could sell him? Uh,
Oh man, I have papers that say I own bridges
I know
that I can
exactly.
sell.
Let's maybe we could sell him some free speech. We'll write up some free speech tickets, and then sell him the free speech tickets, and then he can use those free speech tickets anytime he wants to have some free speech. How's that?
Genius. Are these more or less valuable than shoot bucks?
What are they? Shoebox?
Shroot bucks.
Shroot bucks. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll get some shroot bucks too, maybe. Okay. I would say they're pretty cheap because we want it to stay free. We'll put
Right.
free in
Yeah.
quotations. We'll put free in quotations. Free speech tickets, and We'll sell them to
50 cents
Kanye.
per opinion.
50 cents per opinion, and then anytime he wants to like really throw out one of those zingers, um, I can just throw that ticket out there and be like, "Hey guys, listen, I got this free speech ticket right here, and you cannot argue with that. That's the law." Um, but yeah, that was Candace Owens, also a terrible person. Better business man than Kanye, anyway. Hey, I got this thing that's worth nothing. You want to pay me a bunch of money for it? And then he did.
I think Kanye went. He's obviously a extremely successful artist, but he
Yeah.
definitely took his success as an artist and then thought he could do anything.
I think artists feed off of pain and dysfunction. Um, and then they turn their problems, their pain, their sadness, their dysfunction, their failures into art. And I'm going to suggest that there aren't any happy, content artists. There aren't any pleasant, well adjusted stand up comedians. Uh, they all have issues. And what you do is you take those issues and you turn them into good art. If you don't have any issues, you don't have anything to talk about. You don't have anything to rap about. You don't have anything to create. Um, so him being good at it only proves that he has more mental instability, and it's outweighing. What you got to do is not let the issues outweigh your art. But he has swapped that now. He has more issues than art.
Yeah, I'd say so.
uh,
I mean, he's lost
he's
billions at this
lost
point.
lots of money.
It's insane.
Honestly, I don't know how the stock market works, but wouldn't this be a good time to? Well, I don't know how to short things, but I think what's the shoe company that he just
Adidas.
Adidas? Yeah, is their stock
It,
not going to plummet? If he was responsible for a whole lot of sales, are their sales not going to go down now that they've distanced themselves from him?
well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know how many of their sales he was really responsible for. I know that they had an advertising deal with him or something like that, but or
What if it
maybe
was a
some
lot?
kind of shoe.
What if it
Was
was
it
a
some
lot?
kind of shoe that was through them that he was doing? It was like a several $100 million deal.
Yeah.
So they
So
won't
they're
be.
saving that money. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's money they don't have to give him. Uh, um, so even if they lost sales because of him, they don't have to give him that money. So they'll probably break even. Okay.
Something along those lines.
I
I
saw
mean,
some.
I'm sure that they'll still be able to sell shoes from the sweatshop in China.
Yeah. It was just one of those stupid Wall Street bets memes that was like, hey, this is the time to buy Adidas. But they're all very, very stupid and bad at their thing.
Yeah. Uh, the whole GameStop thing really brought a lot of people into the stock market that really should not be in the stock market.
Yeah. I shouldn't be there. I'm not there. I'm a buffoon. I have no idea what's going on. I don't even think most of it's real. Um, so, yeah, I avoid it at all costs.
When I was on the East Coast, I traded a lot more than I do now. Right now, I just do buy and hold because I it takes too long, or rather, not too long, but I liked being able to get up in the morning and do a little research and see what the pre-market was doing.
Hmm.
Uh, and when I was on the East Coast, market opens at 9:30, so I have time to do all that before it opens.
Hmm.
Uh, Now on the West Coast, it's not the same. The freaking market opens at 6:30 in the morning. I'm not getting up at 5:30 to do all that
Because you have
research.
to research first and then make your
Yeah,
decisions. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a few places I would go to just to look for ideas and not Wall Street bets, but some of the people that were intelligent on Wall Street bets that quit being there because it got all stupid with GME.
Hmm.
Um, and I'd read just about every comment on the 300 comment daily thread,
Oh wow. Okay.
um, looking for ideas and then seeing what's been posted. And usually it's some kind of a report
Sounds
or
like a second job.
earnings. It is. It is. I spent probably somewhere around 4 hours a day,
Hmm.
just researching, and then maybe another hour or two actually looking for a good time to place the trade. Because if you do it at the right time, you can usually use a little bit of technical analysis to catch a bounce somewhere. Um, but I did make a pretty good amount of money over the last year and a half or so.
Okay.
Um, right
Well,
now,
that's good.
I am invested in a Canadian oil and natural gas company as my primary investment.
Oh my God. You're
That
poisoning the planet. What have you
well,
done? I know. I'm just giving you shit. I'm just kidding.
the main reason for my investment was because they have substantial exposure to European natural gas,
Okay.
which is absurdly expensive right now. So I figured I'd jump in on that profit train.
Okay. Oops. What I wanted was this. So what do we got? What else we got in the news? Iran acknowledges drone shipments to Russia before Ukraine war.
Not surprising.
If only they were our ally, they wouldn't have done that.
They haven't they always been Russia's ally?
There was this whole uh, Iran nuclear deal that Obama put together that
That
somebody
never made them
canceled.
our ally.
It made them more friendly towards us.
Do you think that if the nuclear deal was still in place, they wouldn't have shipped drones to Russia?
Yes, literally. Yes,
Hmm.
they would have been more friendly towards us. It doesn't make that deal that was literally it was diplomacy, you know. So they are diplomatically more appreciative of us. They are diplomatically closer to us. That means they would not have backed the Russian side of this conflict. They might have done nothing.
Maybe.
They
I think
might
that's
not
a
have. I'm
bit of
not
a
saying
leap.
they would have put on a red, white, and blue fucking flag and charged at the Russian army from the Ukrainian side, but they could have been, uh, I suspect, nicer to us and more in our, uh, more friendly with us.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way for us to know
Well, there's no way to know anything.
that.
I mean, yeah, there's no way for us to know that specifically this event wouldn't have happened because they're not saying we did this because Mr. Trump canceled the agreement we had. But I do suspect that Trump hurt diplomacy between us and them. And if there's two big economic blocks, the American bloc and all of our allies, and then the Chinese Russian bloc with all of their allies, we should recruit them to ours.
I will grant that if that nuclear deal was kept in place, Iran's oil production would probably have increased substantially as a result of the sanctions being lifted,
Yeah.
which could have a chilling effect on oil prices as they stand right now.
Hmm. And then who would they have sold it to us? I don't remember specifically, but
It
if they
it,
if they
it really
had,
doesn't matter. They would have just sold it
okay,
somewhere, and oil energy is a global market.
okay, okay,
So
I got
yeah, I mean they if they sold, for example, to India or something,
you. Hmm.
then India would have less demand for other oil, right? So the other oil would be sold at that supply demand dynamic in other markets like Europe.
Okay.
Dead air. Can't have dead air on stream.
What? I'm reading. I agree. Um, Ukraine suffered a comms outage when 1,300 SpaceX satellite units went offline over funding issues. We're back to
Wait, what?
fucking Elon. Damn it. We're
Oh
back
yeah,
on
didn't
Elon.
the embassy, one of the Ukraine ambassadors tell Elon to fuck off?
Yeah, but I think it was. I think Elon started it. Ah, you know what it was? Elon literally quoted Russian talking points about how the Crimean Peninsula belongs to Russia. And I mean word for word their talking points. And some people think that he actually had a phone conversation with Putin. That's conspiracy theory at the moment. Did Elon talk to Putin? But there is a thing that Putin says, and then Elon tweeted it word for word.
Ooh,
Uh,
the Elon that I mean,
that
that's
made
definitely conspiracy
that's
theory, but
definitely conspiracy theory. But that
that could
made
fuck a lot of things actually if he
that
did.
that made the Ukraine uh, people angry that he is using Russian talking points about uh, the Crimean Peninsula because they are thinking about taking it back with the military that they have and the gains that they're making. They're thinking about taking it back, uh, but that would lead them into a fight with Russia, and then they bombed that bridge. So this is before the bridge got bombed. So Ukraine is thinking about taking the peninsula. Uh, Elon says, "Hey, I'm not going to give you Starlink over that peninsula. You can have it over Ukraine, but you cannot have it over the Crimean Peninsula because that belongs to Russia." That makes the Ukrainians angry. They tell them to fuck off.
Interesting. I'll have to
And and I
look into that
recognize,
situation a little more.
yeah, I recognize that that is a complex situation that Elon has to navigate. But if you want to be the richest man in the world and control the internet services and the public square and talk to heads of government, he's going to be making
Well,
decisions like that.
going
He
and talking, I mean, he if he talked to Putin, there's a couple of issues there. I don't think he did because that would be a horrendously boneheaded move on his part. He would first of all, that would be in probably in violation of his top secret clearance, which he needs in order to be able to run SpaceX. And then on top of that, wouldn't that also be a violation of the Hatch Act, conducting diplomacy on the behalf of the government without having the public station to do that?
October 12th, Russia reveals details of Elon Musk's phone call with Putin.
Interesting. That could really fuck him.
I don't think it will. Um, no, this is a year and a half ago. Fuck out of here. Fuck you,
Oh,
Newsweek. Fuck you, Newsweek. You hear me? Fuck you, Newsweek, for tricking me. Hey, Russia reveals details of Elon Musk's phone call with Putin in
from
big letters,
2021.
and then in little letters. A year and a half ago, they had a conversation. Fuck out of here, Newsweek, you fucks.
Oh, I misspoke. It wasn't the Hatch Act. It's the Logan Act that
So it was before the war started, and it was about SpaceX. So,
yeah,
but
which makes sense.
uh, still, if Elon is in a position to provide services to a country that's at a war, Ukraine is in a war. They use Starlink for internet and communications. Communications are super important in a war.
Hmm.
That communication provider has said, if you cross this line, I will not provide you communications any longer for this place. Uh, he has the business right to do that, I think, but it's shitty that he gets to make that decision.
Well, yeah, but also isn't Starlink providing? that service at cost to themselves.
Yeah, and which is why I think he has the business right to make that decision. He says, "Hey, Ukrainian army, I will give you Starlink over your country," and that's fine. But then if they say, "Hey, we're going to go do this now," and he's like, "No," I mean that's business wise. I think he has that right, but that has a dramatic effect on an entire country's war effort.
I do believe, did he not say that he would suspend services unless they paid for them?
Well, no, he said, "Hey, I will not let you go. I will not give you service in the peninsula, the Crimean Peninsula." But then they told him to fuck off, and now he's like, "Oh, well, I've been giving you this for free. I don't have to give it to you for free. Somebody pay me." At which point he suggested that the Pentagon pay, since the Ukraine military doesn't have a whole lot of money to be spending on that right now. It would come from the United States government anyway. So now he's saying somebody needs to pay. But after that, Elon said, "The hell with it. We'll just keep funding Ukraine government for free." He's not happy about it. But they're
I
in
wouldn't be happy
negotiations
about
now.
it either.
Right away, everyone in our building knows we're going to pay them. The senior Pentagon official told CNN, because we worry he'll change his mind. So the Pentagon is going to pay him for Starlink to Ukraine.
There he goes.
Hmm. Okay, so if he's giving it for free to Ukraine, I think he has the right to say, no, I won't do it over the Crimean Peninsula. But if he's being paid for a for the would call it a service, I call it a utility. If he's being paid for the utility of the internet, I don't think he should have a say over where the Ukrainian government uses it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if he's getting paid for it.
Okay. Which is probably what's going to happen. The Pentagon's going to pay him, and then the Ukrainian government will decide where they use it. Hmm.
Yeah, they're gonna have to expedite that process there because we know how slow the Pentagon can be
Not with paying stuff, not with
about
throwing
paying
money
stuff.
around. They're not slow. They're slow at making decisions. They're slow at change. Um, they're slow when they don't want to do a thing. But if they want to pay a company for a service, they're pretty damn quick. But now we're back on Elon. Should a businessman be able to make decisions like that
With his company? Yeah,
with
sure.
his company? Sure, but yeah, it it I think he does actually have the right to say, "Hey, no, I'm giving it to you for free. You can't use it here." That makes sense.
Yeah.
Or even deny the Pentagon entirely. If the Pentagon says, "Hey, we're going to give you this much money to provide the service," he's allowed to say no. I'm on board with that.
Yeah, and at the same time though, he runs the like he's already got enough bad press at the moment,
Hmm.
but he then runs the risk of making himself the bad guy when he does that.
Musk's control over the signal gives him significant sway over the battlefield. That's what worries me. But we live in a capitalist society, so the person with the most money will have significant control over battlefields. It's just going to
Yeah.
happen. Okay. Let's see. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, more help Putin. Anyway, um, well, it's been an hour already. Okay. Anything you want to talk about?
Oh, we should have a plan for these.
Yeah, I was thinking that I wanted to talk about the public square, but we did. And what I'll do is I'll give you a shout a couple of days before if you want to talk. Is there any subject specifically that you'd want to go over?
Um, I definitely wasn't expecting this to be our pop culture talk. Um, you want to do something about like n- the quality of writing in media?
Within the news?
No, within the media that we consume,
Oh,
Marvel,
oh,
uh, you know.
the quality. I never thought about the quality before.
Oh, I think the quality of media that we consume is taken a drastic downturn over the last several years, and which is why I was so shocked to see something as good as The House of the Dragon
Well, it had
come out.
writers,
Well, of course, but uh,
and it was based
it's like,
on things that a writer wrote. It's based on the Blood and Fire book, which was written by a very good writer.
well, yeah, but then the Rings of Power was supposed to be based off of Tolkien's work, and then I honestly don't think it was good.
It wasn't.
So
Oh, it was great. I don't know what was the writing bad. You did what did you not like about Rings of Power?
nothing happens in it. It's so
Nothing
boring.
happens. That's
And
all
then
of fucking
the dialogue
Tolkien, man.
is just terrible. Um, I'll have to I'll go back and rewatch it again
The,
if we're gonna talk about comparing the two.
I don't know.
Um, but you have to watch House of the Dragon in order for
I
us to
just
do it.
finished the seventh episode last night. They just got married.
Oh my gosh, isn't
Spoilers.
it
They
phenomenal?
just got married. How's that a spoiler? It's good, but
Episode
it's
8 is the best of
that's
the
what
season.
everybody on the internet said. Is that the last one?
No, episode 10 is the last one.
10. There's 10. Okay, so I finished up to 7 last night. Um,
Yeah,
I didn't. Oh,
8.
I didn't like number 6. 6 changed the actresses, and it jarred me. It threw me for a loop, and I couldn't figure out
Yeah,
what the hell was going on. And
that hit a lot of people with that time jump.
there was the time jump. They didn't have to change actresses, honestly. She's a, isn't she 22 years old, pretending to be a 16-year-old? They could have just dressed her differently and aged her up a little bit, honestly.
Yeah,
But then I couldn't figure out why she was holding bugs. I was like, why is the princess holding bugs and talking with the queen like they're friends? This has never happened before. And it was the queen's daughter, but they didn't explain that, and it didn't. Number 6 had me all spun around and confused. Um, I didn't know how many kids she had, and in number 6 she gives birth to her third one, and the queen's being a bitch about that. Like, why are you being a bitch about the third one? Why not show us the first one when all the tension happens? I don't know. It's very strange. Um, 6
well,
threw
they
me for
hate
a
each
loop.
other.
I know they do, but
uh,
but why
but
would you be
yes,
such a
valid.
bitch about the third one? But yes, 7 was a bit better. Number 6, yeah, definitely threw me for a loop, and I was like, why is this happening the way it is? But 7 was a lot better. Uh, and so yeah, at the end they just got married. So
Yep,
which is what should have
8 is
happened
the strongest episode.
20 years ago. Yeah.
I think 9 is the weakest episode,
Mm.
and then 10 is in the top 3. So look, and 9 is strong for most of the episode, but
Hmm.
there are certain events that take place that are like, why?
Hmm.
But
I mean, as for Rings of Power, this is exactly what I expected. Um, the Silmarillion is not exactly riveting. It's mostly
well,
history.
yeah, but the character's actions should at least make sense, right?
I thought they
Like,
made
here's one example I'll
sense.
bring up is
Hit me.
Galadriel knows that and it's been a little bit, but Galadriel knows that she's in a city that elves are not allowed in.
Hmm.
And so the first thing that she does when she gets there and is brought before like the queen of the city or whatever is to like act all high and mighty and demand things of these people. Like, what are you
Hmm.
doing?
And
Why would you
she's
do that?
because she's a high-ranking elf general. She's
They don't care.
what do you mean they don't care? She's asserting her dominance. She's not gonna walk in there and be meek. That's not in her character at all. She
Uh,
is the most important person in the room, every room she's in. Gives, she tries to
Not
tell the
here.
king of elves what to do. This is entirely within her character. I don't think it's a good idea for her to do that. And the human guy that she, what was his name, Harkin or whatever his name is, um, the human guy that she was there with,
Albrand.
told her
Yeah.
that this was not a good idea. And he had to smooth over her failures. And her failures were being too high and mighty. Um, that's
I think she was just
entirely
dumb.
within the character. Yes, maybe her character's dumb. She's Elves are known for not changing with the winds.
Or at the very beginning, didn't um their raft like sink or whatever, and there were a bunch of people that were gonna drown, and
There was a
he only
large,
saves
yeah,
her,
yeah.
and then she also left those people, but then she was like, "What kind of man turns his back on his fellow men or something?" It's like you
Well,
did too, lady. What are you
she,
doing?
they turned their back on her first. They were throwing her off. They brought her on board, and most of them didn't want to bring her on board. Then one of them said, you got to. Then they found out she was an elf, and they were mad at her. They were going to get her. They were going to kick her off. If that sea serpent hadn't appeared, they would have kicked her off
Hmm.
because she is an elf. So they turned their back on her and were about to. And then the sea monster shows up. Guy detaches his little raft from the big raft, and she swims to the little raft that's now less of a meal for the creature. If you want to complain about why the creature didn't come after them afterward, I'd say that's a decent question. It probably would have finished off those
Probably.
people, then found them, since they're still paddling away at 1 mile an hour.
Yep.
So I think that was a tiny hole. Um, but it was exactly what I expected it to be. The um, visuals were huge and super expensive. Most expensive television show of all time. Um, I liked it more than the Hobbit movie, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
The Hobbit movie was bad. Like I was cringing the entire time I watched that Hobbit
It
movie.
was bad. I'll give it that. I don't know if it was worse than Rings of Power, but I'll tell you what. I'll rewatch that,
Yeah, I'm almost done
and
with
you're almost done with House of the Dragon,
yeah.
so we'll talk about
As
it
I eat
next
dinner,
week.
I usually I can. I'm sure I'll be done with it by then. Um, what are the scores? Stupid Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score was 37 for Rings of Time, or sorry, Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Uh, what were the critic scores, though? I wonder. Hey, I can type. Yeah, audience 39, critics 85. So yeah, I think this is one of those issues where critics see it a certain way and the average public doesn't see it that way. It happens sometimes.
Well, it feels like a lot more in recent memory, but yeah,
I mean,
we'll talk about it next week.
yeah, that's fine. I can do that. All right. So what am I going to do next week? I'm going to be a better streamer, maybe. Learn how all this works. What do these buttons do? I don't know what any of this does. I'm just kind of making
This
things
is
up.
all,
This is all
you know,
black
practice
magic
makes
to me.
perfect.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and get a chat thing up just in case we have a viewer.
A viewer.
Just in
Yep.
case we have one who can yell at me uh, or call me names because that would be fun. So I'm going to try and figure out how this works. There was a chat screen here last week when we did that recording, but I don't know where it went. I don't know how to get it back. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring you photos of other times when this happens, where you're critics are high and your users are low. Um, and I'm going to compare
And
it to that thing that you gave me about how the writing is uh, significantly lowered.
yep,
So I'm going to bring those things with me. So we'll do next week, same time, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Is that good for you?
sure.
So we'll do Saturday 10 a.m. and then we'll do news. We'll go to here. We'll go to news. We'll see what's up, and then we'll talk about this.
Sounds good to me, buddy.
Alrighty. I will talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.